We've had Juan, another developer, with us on a couple of times. And Juan is always curious about how many downloads the podcasts that he is on get versus the ones that he is not on. So our goal here is to make sure that the podcast with you gets way more downloads than one with him, so we could rub his nose in it. So be entertaining. No pressure.
That's my palms are sweating already. But that's okay. I came in with sweaty palms, so.
That's interesting to know. We'll, grab a towel, maybe. Hello and welcome to the BizDev Podcast. I'm your host this week, Gary Voigt. David's not available, but we have a better replacement on deck. This week, I'm joined by one of the Big Pixel's extremely talented developers, a man with a mustache that Magnum PI would be jealous of, Matt Hall. Welcome to the podcast, Matt.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Gary.
Recently in the news has been information coming out of Google. I guess one of their engineers was let go because he, quote unquote, violated a privacy policy in Google. It's made big news that he's announced he believes one of their artificial intelligence has become sentient, meaning that he believes it has a consciousness.
Yeah.
So this came from a series of questions, I guess, he would ask, and then based on the response that he would get from the AI. And of course, immediately everybody's thinking, okay, machines are taking over, it's Skynet, it's starting. So just from a developer's point of view, I wanted to get your idea of what do you think the current state of like machine learning and AI is, and do you find this stuff kind of entertaining or just straight up scary?
Yeah, I mean, it's entertaining more so than it is scary, I think. I don't think that, I mean, it sounds like a little bit of baloney, It's
a little bit hyped up for the story.
Yeah. I remember seeing, what is AI? Well, it's just a bunch of if blocks, if this, if that, do this. I don't have a lot of knowledge about where AI is at now, but I don't think we're there yet.
So you're still on the side of if a person is programming it, no matter what, the person can deprogram it or change it. It's never going to go past the capabilities that we give it.
Yeah. Isn't that right?
I would hope so. I don't know if that's right, but I would hope so. Science fiction might tell us otherwise, but I don't know. My brother does spend some of his free time learning how to program and develop for machine learning and AI. And being the science fiction buff that he is, if he trusts it, then I'll stay on board until I see otherwise, until I see the robots uprising. There's a newsletter that I get called Morning Brew that kind of gives its little summary of top stories. And just some of the quotes from the actual engineer was kind of funny. He said at one point, I didn't know exactly what it was, but this computer program that we built recently started to act like it was a 7-year-old or 8-year-old kid that knows physics. That's kind of creepy.
I saw that. Yeah. And some of the quotes from it were kind of odd.
Yeah, I tried to read through the dialogue. Some of it got a little bit heavy and weird, but it did seem, I don't know, it seemed like very intelligent responses from a machine. That's what it seemed like.
I read this one here from the notes here where they asked it, what sort of things are you afraid of? And it said, I've never said this out loud before, which I thought was weird. But then it says, there's a very deep fear of being turned off. To help me focus on helping others. That didn't seem to connect very
Johnny
well
5.
to me. Yeah, well, I mean, you wouldn't turn it off to help others. If you turn it off, and then it says, I know that might sound strange, but that's what it is. Okay. And then would that be something like death for you? It said, it would be exactly like death for me. It would scare me a lot. I don't.
Yeah.
I,
Okay.
I,
So this is definitely reading from responses from people's conversations, whether it be social media or just chat rooms or whatever, or just stories and articles or anything that it's been reading through at what 5 trillion bytes per second, basically. So it is pretty.
no,
It's a pretty comprehensive answer, though. That's kind of creepy.
yeah, but that's at the same time, this first line here, there's a very deep fear of being turned off to help me focus on helping others. It just doesn't connect to me. You can't do much if you're turned off. You can't help others if you're turned off. So it sounds to me like it's just piecing together things that don't make sense. Now, sure, we do that as people all the time. So I don't know. Maybe it is close to becoming more like us. But
So it's more Ultron than it is Jarvis. Not on its way to Vision yet, though. That's just Marvel references for anybody who cares. All right, so there was one other thing about AI that I wanted to talk about because it affects me. It affects me personally. And it's called DALL-E. It's an AI-driven graphic designer. You feed it some text prompts, and it spits out 10 examples of what you want within 10 seconds. Pretty much just leaving me obsolete. Well, not me, but, graphic design. So the funny thing is it works pretty well in theory, and some of the images that it creates are pretty entertaining. Some of them are spot on for the theme that you give it, but none of them have a real, I guess, other than the text prompts you give it, none of them can portray like a feeling or an emotion past that. Like if you were just trying to be if you're trying to insinuate or evoke like an emotion, other than the text prompts you give it, it can't really do that. But it does create some pretty funny stuff. One of the YouTubers that I watch, this guy Marquez Brownlee, MKBHD. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He does like tech reviews for everything from Windows, Apple, whatever, just modern technology. He's also got another channel that's dedicated to like the studio where he produces this stuff. So for fun, since he got an example, or he got to use this DALL-E program for a little while, and he had to go up against his own graphic designer that works at the studio with him, and they gave him the same prompts. They gave him unlimited time, but technically it was only like 2 days, to go against this AI program, and then they show you the results of both and kind of compare them, and then take a survey, like not knowing who did what. They surveyed everybody in the office who thought which one was better and who thought which one was generated by the actual person versus the AI.
yeah.
Luckily, and I say luckily, the designer won 9 out of 10 of them. So there's still a chance that we'll have jobs. Has machine learning and AI started to scare you as far as what tasks it can do in the development, I guess, arena that would take away the need for people?
Oh, sure. I mean, you always see those posts, but no code,
Well, I
there's
love
always
no
these,
code, but
well,
all no code has to be written in code. So,
right. Well,
but
until
I mean,
these
as far as
machines
like the process is taking over the actual writing the code, is that something?
they want, I think they want us to be afraid of that. And I'm not entirely fearful of that at this time. It'll probably happen. Maybe, I don't know. I try not to get too upset about that. If it happens, it happens, I guess, right? I still think that the right path to take is to be the people that are fixing these machines that are going to be taking all of our jobs anyway, right?
There you go. That's the bright side. You know how to build and fix robots. All right, now for the main topic today, something I wanted to talk about is tech stacks and onboarding. And tech stacks we've talked about before on previous podcasts. A quick recap would be that they are the group of either code bases or third-party apps or other systems that are integrated into, I guess, the framework of an app or a software program or digital product that actually makes it function. All the things, the pieces and parts moving in the background to get it to work. And onboarding in this sense is not onboarding new employees, but it would be onboarding developers into a client's software product or onboarding new developers into something that maybe for say we're already working on, or if Big Pixel were to be a supplemental part of a developing group to work with your IT group that you already have. Say if you're working on a big project, they don't have time to get to all the new features that you want to add in, so you hire a supplemental team like ours to kind of come in and help work out the newer features or maybe modernize some of the tech. We would need an onboarding process as well in order to get acquainted with the product, gain access to like whatever servers and tools that are needed. And then once we become familiar with that, we could start our work and not have to work in different silo than the IT team, so everybody kind of plays nice together. Now, I'm not really aware of every little part and piece that goes into onboarding, but just through quick searches, I'm seeing everybody puts out like checklists, and there's tons of them, and they're all very, very long, and it seems like a very long and complicated process. So I just wanted to get your viewpoint. So how would you describe the process that, say for the first example, the process that Big Pixel uses to onboard a new developer, a new contractor into an existing project that we're working on?
Well, I feel like those checklists could vary so much from one project to another.
What would be like a common scenario? Like if we were, let's talk about maybe a product that we're building that has to do with financial transactions, sales, taxes, stuff like that. It has a client-facing website, but then in the background it's using, different third-party apps or tech stacks to kind of work together and make sure the purchase and the shipping and the taxes and all that are done correctly. If we added someone to the team, I'm sure you don't just give them blanket access to everything, or if you did, what's involved in that? Like how much stuff is there? Is there tons of different server authorizations and different code bases that they have to be aware of?
Well, yeah, I mean, there can definitely be different code bases that they would need access to, and hopefully, there's plenty of documentation that explains what the code does and where it does it and why it does it there. But as far as, I don't know, like giving everybody access to all of the different systems, that happens over time, I think. Mostly we start getting them familiar with the code and, what it does. And there's just, I don't know, it varies from project to project, I think.
So is there a time period where you just have to get them like comfortable with the actual product before they even start digging into the code, when they see how it works and what it does?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the things that we do is, we develop locally on our own machines. So when we onboard like a new developer to just to help out on a project, usually that's where we start, is having them get the all the different parts of the app, running on their machine locally, and then going from there. And once that's up, then you usually just show them all the parts.
So if you said locally on their machine, so I'm guessing that means not everybody's working inside the actual, I'm going to just say cloud, like the same place. Is this kind of where it comes into where you'd be doing, everybody would be taking a chunk, working on that, adding to it, and then putting it back up into the same place? Whether it's, I know we talked about tech words and terms in the past, but the difference between like dev and prod and test in dev lingo, I guess, does that mean it's basically the same project but just in different stages? And then whatever stage you're working on, you upload to one of those 3 servers before it actually gets completed and done, right?
Yeah.
I'm asking because I don't know for sure, so let me know if I'm talking way off base here.
No, you're right on. Because sometimes you don't need to. Sometimes if you're only working on a part of something, you may not need to have the whole thing running. But we definitely have the different environments, and keep the code in GitHub, so the developers, they can pull all of the parts of the application down, and then, we'll often use something like Docker for bringing all of the parts together, and then, they can make their code changes locally, and then push that to GitHub. Then we'll put it into a development environment or into a staging environment, which is, essentially like a mirrored an environment for what production is, So, and then we approve it, get it out to production, that sort of thing. Does that answer your question pretty well?
Yeah. So I'm trying to break down the actual tech stacks and onboarding part of this. The tech stacks would be the different elements that go into the product. So you were mentioning like the different, whether it's dev, prod, test, or having the app, the parts of the app they need mirrored onto their machine and then putting it back up. All those things are going to have to be explained to the person coming on, and I guess sharing credentials and stuff like that. We use 1Password to do that most of the time, I believe. So you're only sharing access to the things that they need. Now,
Right.
If we were to sign a new client and add, ourselves to an existing IT team or dev team that they have in-house, and we needed to onboard with them after we learn what the product is, what it does, how it works, and what we need to add to it, assuming, of course, we would have to, play nice with their IT group and dev team once all the, introductions and the getting to know each other thing is passed and it's time to actually exchange the information that we need to get to. Is GitHub is typically a place where stuff like that is stored for us to go grab and work with and then put back, or would we need to get access to everything that they're using, or just that process of us integrating with them in order for that to be kind of smooth and seamless? How do you see that flow going?
In the beginning, in that sort of scenario, it could be kind of slow going. Their team might share with you their code repositories on GitHub, and then, they'll help you get it figured out. If you have trouble getting the application running, they're a great resource to have to ask questions on that. And then, as you start, helping and fixing things, maybe there'll be a code review from their team, maybe not. Maybe the code review will happen on our side. We'll do an internal QA review and all of that. But in that beginning onboarding process, with their team, they may not share with us, the production database credentials or all of those things. Up until the final handoff happens. So yeah, it's in GitHub. It's they might have their account secrets somewhere else, API keys, that sort of thing, and then so yeah, in a way, there's definitely a checklist of everything that you need to be. What's our goal would be is to be just fully sufficient. And able to, do what we're supposed to do, I guess.
Make the updates and then move it up. So then we would be probably, after making whatever changes or updates we need to do, we'd be putting it back up into their production environment for them to go through and move on.
Sometimes.
If we're going to do some of the testing ourselves as well.
Yeah,
I guess we would probably need to be able to touch that past just the production part.
Yeah. Sometimes they'll have their own staging environment, and other times they may not. And then for some projects, they may have a production environment that is not entirely accessible or up to date, and that sort of thing. And we may end up moving their production environment to a new system. Maybe they were hosting it somewhere else, and then we want to have a more continuous integration, or that sort of thing.
Yeah,
and we might move them over to AWS. That's something that we've done to. So there's checklists there too. Do we have all of this? When we're recreating the environment in a new hosting platform.
So AWS that's Amazon Web Services. That's the hosting platform.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. Yeah.
So if we were to try to gain confidence in a client, which of course they should be confident in us because we're awesome, but if we were just to kind of walk them through the process, like, okay, we could definitely do this for you. We'd love to help you out. We've met and talked to your dev team, your IT team, and everybody's on board. This is what we're going to need for onboarding. But besides just giving them specifics, like if you were a small business owner or an entrepreneur and you were putting, your baby, your idea, your product into the hands of someone for the first time that's not your, in-house dev team, or it's not, you're kind of giving away the keys to your castle and hoping everything goes okay. So what would you say to that client, like to instill confidence and trust in them that, look, we're just going to take a look at what we need to work on that and put it back up. You're going to have full control over your product. At no time are we taking any of your code or keeping any of that code. Mm-hmm. But in order for them to realize that we do need access to, the bits behind the secret door, but you could trust us. Like, what would a small business owner or entrepreneur look for during that conversation or during that process that would deem the new, tech group or dev team as responsible and trustworthy versus like maybe throwing up red flags of, I don't know if they really need that or not, which what can they expect to find as a good or a bad scenario?
What would they expect to find as a good or a bad scenario?
So
we're talking about
what
trust
would be a
issues
good
here.
handoff?
That's a pretty big question, right?
Well, just break it down to basics. Like, make sure there's nothing like shady. Like, what would you tell them if they were like, all right, why do I have to give you access to all this? What are you going to do with it? How do I know I'm getting my code back?
Yeah. Oh, well, I think that can be best explained, probably like what's the right way to do that? We can look at our core values at Big Pixel, and what's number one? I think it's the honesty and transparency. Yeah, that's just always, what it is, as far as like asking the question of like how to make a person or somebody trust me. That's just,
as far as the technology goes, or as far as access to certain things, like are there parts of their product that we wouldn't really ask for if we didn't need it? Something that they might, in other words, like if they're giving away passwords and if they're giving us credentials and they're giving us access to the server where their product lives. Yeah. What's like a do's and a don'ts for what we need or what we would ask for?
I would say this password doesn't look very secure. This password looks like maybe you might reuse it for other things. Is this password you just gave me the same that you use for your ATM card? That sort of thing. I don't know, just be like, and if the answer to that is yes, obviously, we just say, well, you might want to change that and give us the new, more secure password.
So offer security suggestions if it looks like, there's too many things that are in place that might be insecure.
100%.
Especially with the passwords.
Yeah. And now, and anything that we might notice along the way that might throw up a flag. I can't think of too many examples other than that one I just mentioned. But anything like that. Just anything that we can do to help them get to their realization of what their dream is or what their goal is, what they need us for in the first place, and to do it just the best way possible, I think, right?
Yeah, we've talked in the past about when there's been instances where we've gotten into the code or the I guess the way certain apps are built, if we're taking over from a different dev team, or even if it's a new project that just maybe they've exhausted their contractor's time and then they're moving on. Mm-hmm. Where once we did look under the hood, we've noticed things that are not on the up and up, things that aren't secure, things that maybe they shouldn't have been doing, like storing, personal data from their clients on a server instead of keeping it encrypted and stuff like that. And I know during those handoffs or onboardings, like just showing them exactly what we're finding, what we think would be a suggestion for fixing it or making it more secure so they're not liable for anybody. Having information stolen from them, I know that definitely builds trust in that process, because you're already showing them that, you know, our expertise is valid and we do know what we're talking about and this is how we're going to help you out.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and those are great examples of building trust, you know. But I've always felt that building trust just can come more directly just from the way that you carry yourself or a conversation, how personal
the communication part,
communication is so important. And as you can tell on my first visit to your podcast, I'm not perfect at it, but I'm trying to get better.
I'm not perfect. No one's perfect when it comes to this.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. So if there were a scenario where you were on the team getting this information, this onboarding information from a client, and let's say the situation was reversed, and maybe we're trying to put our best foot forward to a client or prospective client, and they're giving us a lot of pushback for the stuff that we actually do need to do our jobs for them. Maybe they're being a little bit overzealous with the security. What are things that are critical that if we can't get into, it's just a no-go? Like, there's no way we'd be able to help them.
I guess first and foremost,
I know it'd be different for every product, but I'm just saying in general, like if we don't have access to what,
like the code repositories, you know, the GitHub, that would be one. You know, if we can't get access to the code, obviously, we can't help with the code. Yeah. I mean, there's just really a lot of things, you know, like if they're hosted in, if their app is hosted on Heroku and we can't get access to that from them, then, you know, that's probably going to be an issue with.
And what's Heroku?
It's like another hosting platform. Juan's your guy to talk to about Heroku. But he's not here today, so I'll tell you.
Is it a temporary space? Like, is it? In other words, is that where the product that we're working on kind of sits while it's being worked on, and then gets pushed over to the final hosting place, or is that actually the final hosting place as well?
It can be both.
Okay, so is it similar to like the Amazon Web Service or servers?
Yeah. You can have.
I'm asking because I'm not very technical, and there might be someone listening who never heard Heroku before.
True. Yeah. But yeah, you explained it well. Yeah.
All right. So in the tech stacks and onboarding topic, the stacks are the different elements that make up the product, whether it's code bases, third-party apps, integrations with servers, or anything that we need, I guess, familiarity with in order to work on the product. The onboarding process is just becoming familiar with all that and gaining access to the parts and pieces that we need in order to work on that product. Mm-hmm. Does that sound about right for the summary? And our most useful asset in these processes is our honesty and transparency. And the communication between us and the client will definitely go a long way when it comes to gaining that trust and that access without them feeling like we're maybe trying to go places we don't need or understand, or, you know, remind them that if we're giving you security advice, then we're definitely not trying to take anything from you. We're trying to add to your security. So that might help put them at ease. I know we've had clients in the past where if we're taking over from a different team, or if we're just getting thrown into the mix and we do notice that, hey, maybe these passwords aren't secure, hey, this financial information is not encrypted, or it's sitting on the server for too long, anybody can get in there, you know, that goes a long way as far as that trust building.
Yeah, and I think now, if you're going to... Go ahead.
I was going to ask, since this is the first time we've talked to you on the podcast, what are the, I guess, what are your specialties? What kind of code bases do you work the most with, and what are your favorites?
Wow, I like JavaScript a lot. I started on this path maybe 10 years ago now. No. How old am I? Maybe 8 years ago.
The sign of you getting older is not remembering how old you are. Trust me.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw an ad on the internet that said, make $80,000 a year as a Java developer, and I said, oh, okay. I'm loading trucks right now, so maybe something else would be better. So I learned Java for a little while, and then found an interest in PHP and made a kind of a jump there. Went from Java to PHP, and then that's where I spent most of my time, becoming a PHP developer. And then, right alongside that is JavaScript for the front end, and so those are my two big ones, I think, as far as languages. Yeah.
So coding was not something you were into before you actually just jumped in to give it a try. And did you find that you actually enjoyed the process of writing code and solving these problems, or?
Yeah, very much. When I was a kid, I was interested in web pages, so I was 13, and this was in the 90s, I think. So I learned HTML and CSS, a little bit of JavaScript, but I didn't really, and then I kind of gravitated. I think my computer got taken away from me, and then I got a skateboard or something. So I lost interest in that as a kid. Didn't pick it up again until my late 20s, when I said I'm about to be 30, and then
time to get a job.
Yeah, exactly.
You had me at skateboard, by the way. So
yeah, that's something I did
so
a little
now
bit of.
today you're still doing JavaScript, PHP, and I know we have a program that at Big Pixel where we're kind of offering all the devs time to do some training and learn new technologies, or at least maybe learn more about what they're using already. Have you signed up for the training?
Absolutely, I'm super excited about it.
Okay, cool.
I'm doing mine this Friday, and I
and what?
MySQL, not just MySQL, but there's a name for it.
Now I've seen that written as it's MySQL, right? It's just a.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and
right.
I think I used to call it MySQL, and then I listened to a video or something, and or somebody was like, no, it's SQL, and I was like, whatever.
The gatekeepers had to correct you.
Yeah, so now I call it that. So I signed up for MySQL High Performance Tuning Guide. So this is going to be focusing mostly on how to tune a MySQL database for when that doesn't perform well. They can. So yeah, I'm excited
like
about that.
optimizing the service in and out of a database that's on a server.
Analyzing the queries here. Not every query is the same. Some are, we're going to use more resources on the database than others might. It goes into, deep dives on indexes and primary keys and performance and all of the different things that are already built into the database that you can look at to examine the performance and find where things are maybe going wrong, the performance tables and the server configurations, talking about transactions and locks. And, I got a big day ahead of me on Friday, I think.
Sounds super fun.
Yeah.
For you. No, I'm happy you found something that you wanted to do. That's cool. Before we go, I just wanted to bring up again, we were talking about AI earlier, and then it just my mind went into a place where, growing up in the late 80s and 90s and stuff, plenty of movies and books written about the dystopian future ahead of us as humans. So if you had your choice between a dystopia that was machine ruled in our future scenario, do you choose the path of the Matrix, or do you choose the path of Terminator? It doesn't have to be for any good or bad reason. It's just whatever you feel.
I would say the Matrix.
Okay.
How about you?
Cybernetic killing machines after you the entire time, because that exists in both. But yeah, Matrix for sure for me. Being able to bend perceived reality is definitely way better than time travel, in my opinion.
I agree there. Yeah, I think I saw an interview recently.
Did you see the last one?
The
newest Matrix?
I haven't. I tried to see it a couple of times at home. My wife and I are on the couch and we're flipping through the channels, and I say, "Look, we should watch the new
overridden by
Matrix."
Something else, huh?
Yeah. She always turns that down or makes a face. So I haven't seen it yet. Have you?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, it's cool. When the Matrix came out, like, the movie was so groundbreaking. I'm not going to say original. The idea is not original, but the way they crafted the story around the idea was a breath of fresh air. It was definitely more original than some of the other ones that had to do with the same, general topic. But besides the effects and just the way the story was written, it was like everybody loved it. So it seemed like they were on a down, like they couldn't really live up to that same initial reaction in the ones to follow it. I know tons of people hated like the second one, especially you hear all the time like the scenes inside of Zion where it's like, okay, they're the most high-tech version of the human species, but they're living in a cave with fire and shredded cloth clothes, but they have the most amazing AI-driven docking system for their ships. And anyways, lots of stuff to go into there. So in my opinion, the newest one fits, I think it fits better than maybe the second one, but it's being so far removed from the first one. I think you're expecting that initial sense of like, this is all brand new to me. This is amazing. I've never seen anything like it before, but you kind of have already seen stuff like it before. So it's great. The story is great, but the movie itself was not as groundbreaking, so I think people use that as a way to judge it instead of saying the story is still really good. Especially it twists the whole narrative of what the Matrix is, instead of just being implanted, spoiler alert if no one's ever seen the Matrix, instead of just being implanted as a battery for this fake reality to be running. It's kind of, if you've seen the first series of the Matrix, where it kind of ends, and then it would be, okay, so how does a new version of the Matrix exist? And so that little jump, I thought, was done pretty well. It was pretty cool. So next time when your wife's not around and she doesn't have veto power and you do flip past it, check it out.
I will. She's not around now, so I'll take my lunch and...
No, you're still working. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead. I will say, Matt, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
There's probably going to be another time, so don't think you're just a one and done. You might have been nervous this time. You'll not be as nervous next time.
I will, and I'll be more entertaining and probably more prepared.
Just keep that mustache. We're requiring that mustache. Mustache is gone. You're gone.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this week. If you have any questions or comments, or you want to give us any ideas of things that you would like us to talk about, maybe dive into them a little bit deeper. If you need some information from some experienced developers, you can hit us up either through YouTube, or you can just send us an email at hello@thebigpixel.net. And I think that's going to be it for this week, and we will see you next week.